And welcome everybody. I'm going to call to order the October meeting of the Commission on Diversity Awareness for the City of Flagstaff. And we will call to order at 1:33 p.m. Roll call. Jean Toner, I am here. Dan Duke.
Present.
Mandy Gebler.
I'm here.
Christine Tucci.
I'm here.
Okay, and Marcella is on family leave, so she will not be here through January, and we do have a quorum. Who would like to read the mission statement?
Let's read it.
Okay.
Mission statement: a commission to foster support, respect, awareness, and appreciation of diversity among all citizens of Flagstaff.
My apologies for my phone. Sorry. Who would like to read the land acknowledgement?
I can read it.
Okay.
The Commission on Diversity Awareness humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you, Christine. Our next item number 4, is upcoming opportunities and announcements. Just FYI, the November 1st, 2022 council meeting, the appointments will be made for new members. And if anybody can, make that meeting virtually, that would be wonderful. I plan on being there. Then, as you all know, we have a collaboration going with the library. Felicia French is the diversity person at the library, and they've convened a group that is looking at multiple diversity initiatives. We met on the 12th of October at 2:30. What was decided, the library commission or committee has developed concepts of agency-based diversity principles that they would like to introduce to all agencies in the city. So that is kind of what we're looking at in collaboration. We are also looking at collaborating on biannual 2 workshops a year. Both will be pride oriented, and possibly what we'll be doing is looking at possibly in May, the history of LGBT movement in Flagstaff, and in November, we will look at either the seasons and cycles of identity, or we may look at gratitude and recovery. We will see when it gets closer to the time. There's also an LGBT book club, adult books, and that is December, the 12th of December, and it can be attended virtually or in person. And that's about it for our collaboration with the library. So next we are at item number 5, public comment. I see somebody is, okay. Yes, Jessica, go ahead.
Sorry, Jean, it just goes back to the first comment real quick. I did want to confirm that the city clerk's office verified we have, there will be 4 appointments made at the council meeting on the 1st. There were enough applicants, so that is promising. We were concerned a little bit at first. So there will be 4 appointments made on the 1st, meaning we should have no issues meeting our quorum for the November meeting.
I am so grateful to hear that. Thank you very much. And I have so much gratitude that there is the level of interest that there is in the Commission on Diversity Awareness. So this is all very good. Thank you, Jessica. So now we'll move on to number 5, public comments. And if anybody would like to raise their hand, I will recognize them for public comments. And just a reminder, as commissioners in this section, we cannot respond to anything that anybody says. So, you know, it is just, you know, presenting comments and for the record. And that we will follow up in future meetings, but we can't in the public comments. Any comments?
I did not receive any prior to this meeting. I'm not seeing any hands either. I'm looking at the guest list. I think everyone here is scheduled for an item on the agenda.
Okay, very good. Then we will move on to consideration and approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes that Jessica provided us with? And does anybody have any comments or any changes? Would anybody like to move for approval?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from September 21st, 2022, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved as drafted. Just an announcement, the next meeting is November 16th, 2022 at, and that would be a Wednesday and it's at 1:30. Is this going to be a problem for anybody to attend? Or should we leave it as it is?
I know Commissioner Pino will still be out on leave that day. And then we will make sure to check into with the new members pretty quickly to get that scheduled on their calendar.
Very good. Okay. Well, now we are at the heart of the meeting, which is our action items. And number one, A, is a presentation from Flagstaff Police Department on diversity efforts. And we want to welcome Chief Musselman and his colleagues, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. We appreciate the invitation to come speak before the commission, and let me introduce the folks that I have here with me. But can you hear me all right, everyone?
Yes.
Cool. So with me today to my right is Deputy Chief Paul Laswicki. He's going to be taking kind of the second half of our presentation. And to my left is Chris Glovna, and Miss Glovna is our training coordinator for the police department. She'll be with us to answer any questions that I can't. And then I hope, am I able to share my screen from here so I can put our presentation up?
I stopped sharing, so hopefully you should be able to share now.
Okay. Let's see. Are you guys seeing a slide that says diversity report?
I am not.
I am not.
Okay.
Go back out and go back to the meeting. And
Okay.
at the bottom, there was the OneDrive. Scroll all the way down. It might browse your OneDrive. Maybe that will, or is it on your computer?
It's on that thumb drive there, which
Oh,
I
so go to
loaded.
browse my computer and then you can change it to that drive. But is it E?
Yeah.
Okay.
There it is.
Awesome.
There we go.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you. So just given the number of questions you all would like us to get through today and the amount of time we have, we're going to try and be as succinct and brief in our initial responses. thus allowing time for question and answers at the end. So just bear with us, but if you do have a question, I guess put a hand up and we'll keep an eye for hands up.
Sure.
That'll help. So experience has shown us that when a law enforcement agency reflects the community they serve, it deepens their trust in law enforcement. And that's what we strive for. And we will continue to strive for, even though we may not always get there. Diversity strengthens the department by bringing together officers of different backgrounds, viewpoints, and experiences that reflect the diversity of our community. And so I wanted to talk briefly about our training. I think the first question you all posed was, what are you doing to ensure diversity training is being performed, and with what frequency are these trainings being enacted? And so training for police officers starts at the initial police academy, and we do have a local academy, which I'll talk about later, but currently and previous to now, we'd send our officers all over the state, and they go roughly 4 months of training, 800 something hours. And I just want to hit on some of the classes I felt you'd be interested in. So bias motivated crimes, how to identify biases, including prejudice, racial bias, and disability bias. That's a basic academy course. That's 2 hours. Cultural awareness is an 8-hour course. Behavioral health and crisis response, 8 hours. And interpersonal communication, 12 hours. And then police and community, discussing the concepts of police in the community and the philosophy involved in community-based policing. That's 4 hours. And then once our officers get back here, throughout the year, we do our best to provide them with additional training. And some of the trainings we focused on over the past few years, Navajo cultural awareness, implicit bias training, hate crimes, behavioral health interventions, mental health first aid, autism awareness, fair and impartial policing, bias-based policing, developmental disabilities, calming the fire principles for de-escalation and understanding people, communicating with non-responders, autism spectrum disorder for law enforcement, suicide by cop, domestic violence response, crisis intervention team, and I never gave that a thought, deaf sensitivity training. Some of these we've done in 2022, some have been 2021, 2020, and 2019. Yes, I see there's a hand up, Mr. Duke.
Yeah, all the numbers you're mentioning are impressive. Are these in-person classes, and are they via like in one lump sum, or are they broken up via that 4-month period you're mentioning? So 8 hours, is that over a 4-month period, or is that in a 1 daytime class?
So good question, Commissioner. For the police academy, they either do those all in 1 day or it's broken up over 2 to 3 days. Our in-house training, it could be either. Some of those are online trainings. Due to COVID, we had to switch to online platforms because frankly, a lot of training companies went out of business, or they'd come set up a class, and then after the first day, someone would come down sick and they'd have to cancel the class. So I can't tell you which ones were which, but some were in person and some were online.
Do you think, because for a quality assurance aspect, that the ones that were done online will be repeated and done in person in the future?
They certainly could be if we find somebody willing and able to train them.
It just seems like something as sensitive as cultural training needs to be done in person, just as a commissioner and as a citizen opinion.
No, and I agree with you. I'm a much better learner. And we'll cut to the chase. Yeah, people pay more attention if you have an instructor standing in front of them. But again, to be able to get the training, there's a few other challenges that we're having to work through, which I'll get to later in the presentation. That the online training is certainly efficient for what we need to do. Just because officers are on the road 24/7, 365, and you can't, I mean, I could bring somebody in for an 8-hour class right now and I could give them the space in the classroom, but I couldn't pull anybody off the road to attend the training. We're just that short on personnel, being down 40% on staffing. To put somebody in training, I'd have to pay somebody 10 hours of overtime for that person to go to a 10-hour class.
So do you think with the understaffment issue, do you think that's reflecting the quality of what your department's able to perform right now as well because of the lack of training per se?
It certainly is affecting performance, response times. And it's not just lack of training. It's, you know, the criticalness of the media in police work over the last 3 years. A lot of senior folks have retired. So we're losing officers with 20+ years experience and we're replacing them with a 20-year-old young person that may or not been through college, may have not been in the military, and may not have really good people skills. So that's creating a whole lot of issues for us besides just in the training. Response time, the ability to investigate crimes, the ability to communicate effectively with people. So it's actually made training that more important here recently, but it's just struggling to get people through that training and still keep them safe, keep the other officers safe while they're out on the road, if that makes sense.
And in fact, a lot of the training
Struggle to
courses
get
that
people
Chief brought up were done in
No, he's
person.
talking. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
When you say it's a struggle for people to complete the training, are you saying there's individuals that haven't completed the training?
The training goes on continually. We do different training classes every year. But if, like the autism training, if we did that in 2020, I can tell you we've hired probably 50 people since then who have not had that training yet. They still have gotten the initial training in the police academy, but depending on the time and place that that class is presented, people would miss that. Does that make sense?
Just as a citizen viewpoint, is that part of like the jobs description to complete those trainings within a certain amount of time and accepting the job position? Or is it just kind of like when you get a chance, you can complete these classes?
No, when we put the classes out, we give them a deadline. I'm saying people have been hired after these classes have been presented. I gave you a list of trainings we've done over the past 1 to 5 years. So some of the people that we have employed now haven't been through some of these trainings. Some have. It just depends on how long the person's been here, what trainings they have gone through. I think you're asking if we have a set. If you're asking if we have a set bank of classes that we automatically teach every year, the answer is no. We kind of look at the trends. We look at the complaints coming in. We look at officers' body camera videos. And if we identify a theme where they're not treating somebody right, or if we have a theme, say we start seeing a bunch of officers getting in pursuits in violation of our pursuit policy, then we'll do training on our pursuit policy. There are certain mandated classes that the state mandates every year that we have to do, but they're more proficiency, they're more in the hard skills. So firearms, you have to do a shooting qualification every year, you have to do a judgmental every year. We do driver's training every year, and we do use of force training every year. Every officer, correct me, Chris, has to do 16 hours?
8 hours of continuing.
Yeah, the state mandates you do 8 hours of continuing training every year. Everything above that, it's individual agency discretion, what they want to provide. So obviously we try and provide as much as we can without impacting the safety staffing levels of the officers on the road.
And they do meet their qualifications, the state qualifications for their training every year.
And so these are some of the ones I discussed, the diversity related training that we've provided over the last, few years to our people.
When you say years, what is that time frame? Because you're creating a very big list here, and that's really impressive. If that's from 1 year, I'm like, wow. But if you're looking at a decade, then that's kind of disappointing, honestly.
Yeah, so I'll start. In 2022, we did domestic violence response training, crisis intervention team training, the deaf sensitivity training, and understanding dementia. That was all in 2022. In 2021, we did suicide by cop, autism spectrum disorders, communicating with the non-responder, calming the fire, principles for de-escalation, and understanding people. So 4 classes in 2022, 4 in 2021. 2020 was developmental disabilities, bias-based policing. 2019 was fair and partial policing, autism awareness, mental health first aid, behavioral health intervention. So it looks like we get about four additional classes per year.
So the police officers hired within this year, based on your opinion that you just gave me, they should have completed 4 of this that's on the list, because that's what they have it to their resource able to do.
Yes, if they got out of the police academy and
Okay,
and
so
were in the system when we presented these classes, yes, then they would have attended
we're
them.
looking at
Including the 6 in the academy.
it's not really relevant to nowadays per se. But thank you very much for that long list of items presented.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I see Miss Mandy has her hand up.
So one of my bigger questions is when it comes to, obviously, like you said, the diversity of, like, you know, representing the community that you serve, what percentage of officers do you have that are not Caucasian, that are people of color?
Let me jump forward.
And we did allow for time after for Q&A. I know I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Maybe we can get through the presentation first. But I'll leave that up. Jean, I'm not sure how you want to move forward.
Can you make it bigger, Chief? Next to the greater than.
Questions are
I would like to, it's just my preference to hold questions till the end. Let them go through their 12 slides, our presenters go through their 12 slides, and I'm writing some questions down.
Of 7 to 12, right down to the right. Right. Oh, that's just going to move it there, right?
Thank you, Jean, for that clarity and direction as the chair. So we'll let them proceed with the presentation and then hold questions until the end.
And we can start our questioning with Commissioner Gebler, since she's already, you know, brought a question to the floor.
Yes, sounds great.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We'll try and get back on track. So, So the next question you had for us was, what are we doing to try and recruit the first candidates to become part of the police department? So our police department uses the National Testing Network, and what this allows is they're throughout the United States. So an individual can walk into a National Testing Network site in New York City or Detroit, and they can take the test, and then they can pick which agencies to send their test scores to. So we get candidates from all over the world, or all over the United States, to send us test scores. Unfortunately, then they look at the cost of housing here, and a lot of them decline. But we've done some other things as well. We've created a recruitment video which highlights the Flagstaff police career, which shows ethnic diversity in age, male, female genders in the department, as well as other nationalities. We have also assigned a full-time police officer, Elijah Kim, to be our full-time recruiter. He is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, where he did recruiting. He's also comes from a Korean background, so he gets along pretty well with most applicants, and he looks really sharp in uniform, and he's well respected and has command presence. So he goes to all of our job fairs that we get to. When we have an interested applicant, he meets with them, he brings them in, gives them a tour of our department, puts them on a ride along, and tries to answer all their questions. We hit multiple recruitment fairs throughout the year. I could list off them. It's a pretty big list. We also recruit through Native Americans for Community Action, through the Coconino County Career Center. And most recently, we were sponsored the Phi Beta Sigma fraternity fall board meeting. And this is a college fraternity, if you wish, with an emphasis on supporting African Americans. We partnered with them and went with them to the Juneteenth celebration and helped do some recruitment there of local people. What else? The biggest, I guess, the thought I want to leave you with there is our biggest challenge is we get several applicants, but at the end of the day, we're only able to hire out one out of about every 17 applicants, either drug history, criminal history, or history of domestic violence, or they don't pass the psychological or the polygraph, so they get disqualified, or again, they just decide that they can't afford to live in Flagstaff, which is unfortunate and hurts us more. The next question was, what cultural competency programs do you utilize, and what cultures do you feel you need more information about? These are some of our more in-house. So our crisis intervention team program is a program that we partner with the Guidance Center on. And it's a 32-hour program where they teach our officers about developmental disabilities, mental illness that we may encounter in our community. And they do various scenarios that they walk the officers through. The Police One Academy, that's our online training program where if we can't find instructors or we identify that we need more training on autism, we can get a class loaded through there. And then the officers can take it on their own time and we can give them credit. That way we don't have to pull them off the road to get them to do it. NeoGov is the training system through the city of Flagstaff. There's yearly courses there that we're required to take that the risk manager makes us take, or HR, if you're a new supervisor, you have to take certain classes. Accident, discrimination in the workplace, hostile work environment, some of those. Our training coordinator sitting here next to me, if she gets a line on a class that's free and local, we usually try and get somebody into it. And then we partner with a lot of service organizations in the community that come in to do in-service training at the squad level. So this isn't, it's not like you can come in and spend 8 hours with each squad, but say victim witness wants to come in and talk about new victim laws going into effect. We can give them 30 minutes with each squad. Unfortunately, they have to come in at 6 a.m. Monday, 7:30 Monday, 2 o'clock Tuesday, 4 o'clock Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Thursday night, and 10 p.m. Friday night to hit all the squads. So it takes a bit of a commitment on their end. We also use in-service training. If we come across a good article that we think could benefit our people, we'll put that out to them. And then what we have on the horizon, we received approval from our budget team this year to get a virtual reality training program online. So the company we went with is Axon, and they're the ones that developed the taser. And they've developed a pretty robust virtual reality training system where you put on the headset and you can be responding to a shoplift involving an autistic child. You can be responding to a call with a deaf person and have to work through that. And they can even reverse the roles and put the officer in the shoes of the disabled person or the mentally ill person and let them see it from that vantage point. So we're getting that program online. We just had a meeting on Monday to get that fired up. And once we do, there might be an opportunity for the commissioners to come in and see how that works and take some of those training scenarios. And then the academy training, I already touched on that. So one of the other questions, what prompted us to use the particular trainings and how long have we been using them? Like I said, sometimes we identify the need from reviewing officers' work, body cameras, or from complaints that we're receiving. Sometimes it's an outside vendor solicited us and said, hey, we know you've got an auditorium at the city of Flagstaff. We're going to send out training to multiple agencies. If you let us use your lobby, we'll give you 5 free seats. So usually we take advantage of that quite a bit. If the training's cheap and cost effective, cost always weighs into something. If one of us were at a conference and went to a really good training class, usually we try and bring that back here. Personally, I've done that in the past, as have other chiefs and deputy chiefs. And then our training coordinator always looks for stuff proactively. There may be somebody in the community that's got passion for a certain area of training, and they come out and they provide it free of charge. Changes in the law sometimes necessitate the need for additional training. And then some we just try and host every year, like our crisis intervention team, our mental health first aid, and then something along the area of implicit bias, de-escalation, use of force. Again, I think I beat the challenges we have to death. In person is great, but we need the class. We would really like the class to be approved by Arizona Post. They're the approval agency that gives officers their credit. So it counts towards those 8 hours that they have to get every year, and not everyone is AZ Post approved. We have reached out to some local trainers at other agencies here locally to try and get them post approved, and the response has been lukewarm at best. Cost being a factor, we've got roughly 100,000 in our training account, but we send 25 recruits a year to the police academy, and it roughly costs about $4 grand to send them. So it usually eats up a pretty fair amount of our training budget. But when we do in-house training, just so the commission knows, certain guiding principles are built into all of our in-house trainings. So the concept of de-escalation, for example, is taught in our use of force training. It's taught in our defensive tactics training. It's taught in interview and interrogation. It's taught in firearms. So we hit a lot of those guiding principles throughout the training just to reinforce it. For deeper dives on topics that we don't have subject matter experts at, we use private sector companies to get them to come in, or we explore the online through our Police One Academy. And then a final note, our policy program, we subscribe to Lexipol, which provides our policy that's vetted through risk managers, attorneys, and follows all laws. And that policy program provides daily training bulletins on all of our policies, so that every time an officer comes to work and signs on, technically they should be taking their daily training bulletin for that day to stay up on policy. So we do try and keep them up on policy. We try and keep them up on training so that they can be efficient and effective. No, my mouse doesn't want to work. And so how do we measure, how will we know that these trainings are effective? How do we measure success? So we do audits of body cameras. Each supervisor audits their body cameras of their officers to just make sure they're providing good customer service, identify any training needs if they need them. We send out surveys to people who have reported crimes to us. And in those surveys, they give us feedback. Did the officer answer your question? Here's a copy of the report. Does the report reflect what actually happened. We get feedback from outside entities as well. This could be thank you letters from, the Pride organization or Salvation Army for doing a coat drive or Special Olympics. Or it could be in the form of the Municipal Equity Index from the Human Rights Commission. I believe we received a perfect score on that report card for our department. And then looking at citizen complaints, are we seeing a theme in citizen complaints that needs to be addressed? But at the end of the day, the truth is we don't always know if these trainings are effective. I mean, people can be biased and hide it pretty well. And it may not come out in their first 5-10 years of employment, but in the 15th year, it comes out. I'm proud to say I've been part of an organization that doesn't keep problems around. If we identify problems, we address it. And if the person can't get in line with our philosophy, that person can go be a police officer somewhere else. And that happens pretty regular at the city of Flagstaff. Here's our complaints. I broke them down by race just to share with you guys, to be transparent. Not seeing a whole lot of racial profiling complaints. We do get complaints on, rude conduct, out of policy, incomplete investigation, excessive force. We had one civil rights complaint. It was not sustained. We had 6 complaints for harassment, discrimination. 4 of those were unfounded. 2 were not sustained. A couple sustained for dishonesty, a couple for failure to obey orders, and 1 for improper evidence. And then every member of our command staff serves on a nonprofit board in our community to try and solicit feedback through informal channels. So we've got people on Flagstaff Shelter Services Board, Victim Witness Board, Salvation Army, Northland Family Help Center, Sunshine Rescue Mission, and Domestic Violence Fatality Review. And then somebody asked us about employee demographics. Not great, but I think we're trending in the right direction. The first graph is our sworn personnel. So this is our officers and our detectives. In 2010, we had no Indigenous officers working for us. In 2021, we're at 4. 2010, 0 Asian officers. 2021, we're at 2. African American Black, that's was 3 back in 2010, then went down. I think we're back up to 3 now. Hispanic, we had 8 in 2010. Now we're at 9. We had 98 white officers in 2010, and we're at 83 now. And part of this just represents being down on staffing, probably when this report was taken. So those numbers won't add up perfectly. We're authorized 118 officers. We fluctuate anywhere between 105 and up, depending on the day. Our civilian, our non-sworn personnel, you can see the numbers there. I think they've been pretty consistent over the years. But we're trying. I mean, the fact of the matter is we'll hire anyone that can pass a background that's willing to come live and work in Flagstaff. And we want more people. It helps us be safe in doing our job. And then question number 6, what cultural training occurs that's specific to Northern Arizona demographics of Flagstaff? So the biggest news here is we got tired of sending our people all over the state, and we partnered with our community college to open our own police academy here. And it's the user group in charge of it is, we've kind of taken the lead, but in conjunction and coordination with the Sheriff's Department and NAU Police Department. And why we like this is because we can tailor additional classes for our own need. So I don't know that they do a whole lot of search and rescue down in the Phoenix area, but up here we do quite a bit of it. So we've added classes there. In addition to the 8 hours of cultural awareness, we specifically added 2 more hours of indigenous culture. And we reached out to Rose Tohi to have her help teach those, because we feel it'd be beneficial to our officers in our community to know who they're policing. Giving them better insight to local cultures and traditions, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of where we are now. And I will turn it, the next question, Paul's gonna pick it up from here, but I'm gonna stay here and we'll answer questions at the end. So I'm sorry, this was the slide. I didn't advance the slide, but it.
All right, question number 7 was, what is the culture of your police department? And second part of that is, are you specifically looking into being more public service oriented or punitive? I actually like talking about the culture of our police department. I'm actually kind of proud of it. The most obvious evidence of an organization's culture is its mission. Well, it's the mission of every police department in the country to preserve life, property, and public order. FPD takes our mission a little bit further. For example, not every police department makes it their mission to protect the rights of the individual. We do. We make it that a priority by developing training programs that focus on the processes. We do it right, and doing it right is taught at every level, and it's folded into everything that we train here. We're so dedicated to the mission of doing it right that we started a transparency.com website so that people could see what we're doing. We're also, now that not every police department focuses on providing exemplary service like we have in our mission. We pride ourselves on being a learning organization. We're always looking for ways to improve our service. For example, for every complaint that I take, personally, every contact letter that I send out to the person that's making the complaint against us, I includes a statement thanking that person for bringing their concerns to our attention. Because as a learning organization, we look for every opportunity to get better, and we're always trying to get better. Not every police department can say that. Lastly, not every police department out there cares enough about community policing to incorporate principles of community policing in their mission statement like we do. That's why we go to all the community meetings that the chief was talking about, and that's why we participate in all the committees and sit on all of those boards of directors with our stakeholders. That's why we started the Citizen Liaison Committee. That's why we started our own charity that helps the homeless, Better Bucks, because we really care about developing those partnerships of shared responsibility, support, and trust with the law-abiding citizens of our community. That's our mission. We also practice under the principles of the 4 C's Chief Musselman's predecessor came up with. We police correctly in the eyes of the public and the courts, within the law and according to the victim's rights. We police constitutionally by following federal laws and the Bill of Rights and protecting the rights of the individual. We police compassionately. We give out a lot of awards for people for officers that perform acts of kindness and charity, and we police consistently. Everybody's treated fairly under the law, regardless of what demographic they fall in. And as for the second part of that question, are you specifically looking into being more public service oriented or punitive? We're not looking into being punitive. We're not punitive at all. That's not the mission of a police department. It's the court's decision to dole out punishment. We are 100% public service oriented. Question number 8. What would you need from the community to help to ensure that you are geared more towards public service? Again, we're geared entirely towards public service, but what we enjoy from the community, for one thing, is honest feedback. We mail out the surveys and we're currently exploring using a phone app to solicit customer service surveys in a different way, other than mailing out surveys. We get honest feedback from the Citizen Liaison Committee and a lot of the other partners that we deal with. We directly and intentionally seek feedback from those people. We need support. We need cooperation from citizens. We need citizens to trust us because we've earned it. And we need citizens to voluntarily comply with laws. We did a lot of that in Flagstaff. Flagstaff's a great community. And we need help with recruiting good people to join our team. So if any of you out there know any police officer, any people that want to be a police officer.
Or dispatchers.
Or dispatchers. Or records clerks, we're hiring. Question number 9 is, what is your plan regarding upcoming program of working with mental health and social workers in regards to how the calls and how the city can help ensure this plan is feasible? The police department and the fire department respond to a lot of the mental health and behavioral health calls together. And what we've done is we've partnered with the police department. The police department has partnered with the fire department, as well as Taros is a response unit that goes out to behavioral health calls whenever we call them out. And we've also partnered with Solaris, which used to be CRN, Crisis Response Network. The first step that we took was partnering with CRN. At that time, it was CRN, now it's Solaris, to build a diversionary program to kind of divert crisis-related calls that were non-emergency calls to a crisis helpline where counselors and social workers can assist them instead of sending the police out. We feel, as most of the community feels, these are not police-related calls. The police shouldn't be sent out to deal with people that are just having behavioral health crises. Those are medical calls. And we think, just like most of the community thinks, that it's more appropriate to send medical personnel out to deal with medical issues than sending the police out. From there, we developed a care unit set up in March of this year, partnering with the firefighters and behavioral health specialists from Taros and TGC to conduct proactive and responsive calls for service that are mental health, behavioral health, and substance use related. The jail has just developed a new pathways program that includes health department coordinating services, mental health coordinating services. So as people are leaving the jail, they get walked through the pathway program so that they can immediately get set up with the services that they need, so that they can get the help when they need it, the help that they need when they need it. The plan now is to look at how the calls for service have been impacted by the existing programs and evaluate what other needs we may have to further engage with in the behavioral health and social service with the social service providers. We haven't really taken a good longitudinal measurement of what these care and diversionary programs have done to our calls for service. It's going to be kind of hard to tease that information out because we've been dealing with the global pandemic, and that's had a pretty significant impact on our calls for service. So we'll have to take a longer look at that to see what kind of impact that's made. Question 10, are you open to working with agencies that may specifically provide cultural competency and diversity programs to help better inform officers of needs and concerns? Yeah, of course we are. It's more beneficial if they are certified through Arizona Post, though, so the officers can get continuing education and credit for the class. However, that's not a requirement for us. We need competent instructors and teachers to come in and teach us. Again, like the chief said, one of the big hurdles that we have to jump over in getting this kind of on-site training in here is staffing concerns. It's kind of hard to get an entire department through an 8-hour course of training when we're already down, what,
40%.
40% in patrol.
And the online training is convenient and efficient, but like Commissioner Duke suggested, it's not always effective depending on, the person's learning style. And I don't know, for me, it's better to be in person because then you can share examples and real life stories and get buy-in and just feedback from people's nonverbal cues of whether they're receiving the information.
Yeah. And question number 11, what supports are in place for officers who experience secondary trauma and to help discourage stereotyping? One of President Obama's 6 pillars was officer wellness. We take that seriously, and we've invested a lot into officer wellness. A few of the things that we've done, one is an early warning system, which we developed that probably 9 years ago in 2013, 2014. And it's been instituted and we've been using that for quite a while. What that means is we have a system in place that flags an officer after they've received a combination of complaints, use of force incidents, involved in resisting arrest and vehicular accidents. So if they accumulate a number that meets that threshold to flag the officer, we kind of pull them in and find out if they're okay, if they're having any problems at home, stuff like that, and we try and get them help if they need it. We do video reports, video and police report audits. So the video body camera videos and written reports, we audit those on a regular basis. Supervisors review all high liability actions by police, like pursuits, responses to resistance, tasing, obviously any kind of officer involved shooting is going to fall into that. We also have employee assistance programs, and let's see, we just started up PASS again. I can't remember what that stands for. Police Awareness Support Service, where any member of the department can access this service on the day the counseling service is present. A routine for channels for communication and supervisory approval don't apply when you're talking to one of the counselors on those occasions. And the use of that service is voluntary and at no cost to the officer. They're not mandated to attend these, but they can consider these a tool for their wellness. We have a chaplain program that works for some, but not others. Some people respond well to the chaplain service, whether they're religious people or not. We have state and local advocacy groups that help us out. 100 Club, Bulletproof Application, Hold Strong, Tyler Stewart Foundation, Shadows Foundation, others. We do have a critical incident stress management team. That's kind of a national program. It's a peer-led debriefing to help officers talk through what happened during critical incidents, whether they saw something that was critical, that made them feel trauma to some degree, or whether they were directly involved in it, or whether they experienced it vicariously. They may meet with the critical incident stress management team or a counselor and talk through their problems that way.
We've been really blessed with the good risk manager that reaches out after critical incidents to see if any outside expertise is needed. The PASS program involves a certified psychologist to come in and meet with the officer, and that's something we've done for 2 years now, and that's been the officers really like having that feedback loop, direct access to a psychologist on their own time to sit down and talk to. So, and he's been pretty receptive. He's done a couple squad level in-service trainings and came in and talked with our supervisor group. So we're really happy to have him on board. And I'm sorry, that was a little long-winded, but I think that gets you through. These are our chaplains. This last photo, Nathaniel Bradford is our head chaplain right there in the middle. And then the other two chaplains on either side of them. They come in and do ride-alongs with the officers just to check in with them. And then they're at all of our ceremonial processes. And every time we go down to a police academy graduation, one of them goes with us just to introduce himself, not just to the recruit, but the recruit's family, and hand out business cards, just so that they have that line to the chaplain as well. So I think with that, we'll shut up and we'll try and take your questions and answer them as best we can. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you very much, and very much appreciate the thoroughness of responding to the questions that we forwarded to you. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Meg Gebler. She was the last one with the question.
So my question was the one about the demographics of the officers that serve on the Flagstaff Police Department. Because the important thing I know you said is, you know, trying to represent the community that they serve, but without that level of diversity, without like the number of, like, especially Native Americans and Indigenous folks that we have up here, do you feel like that creates a sense of like distance between the community and the police department? Like, and is that something that you think that you could find a way to bridge that gap somehow?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good question. We've been trying to bridge that gap. We just haven't been successful at it. We do have one Native American recruit in our current police academy that we're pretty excited about. But we just haven't been able to find the interest there. And we've done radio ads on KTNN and KNDN, which are stations out on the reservation. And we've done them in English and Navajo. And they said the best time to do them is during March Madness, because that's when everyone listens to the basketball games and they'll get it. And we ran those for about 3 years and not one bite for that. We've been to job fairs at Tuba City. We've been to chapter houses along with the sheriff's department to try and recruit. And we even got, at one point, we were able to get an email list of over 300 students coming out of high school that were interested in law enforcement. And my sergeant at the time personally emailed all 300 of those folks, asking them about their interest in law enforcement. Are they willing to come to Flagstaff? Will they come do a ride along? And we got nothing from that. Right before COVID hit, we were seeing a little bit of success in that we were doing, we brought in high school student career days. So we invited both high schools to come in we partnered with the Coconino Workforce Board, and we did 2 student high school days to come. And then we did a presentation all day long with them. And part of the problem there is they're in high school and we can't hire anybody. You have to be 21 before you can be an officer. And even though we did those 3 years ago, we haven't seen much success there either. But we'll continue to try. We go to every local job fair we can. We go to job fairs throughout the state. The best luck we have, honestly, has been recruiting out of the military. About 30% of our employees, I would say, are veterans. And they're okay with living away from their family, which kind of seems to be a theme for Flagstaff for some reason. But that's where we just had the biggest success. If the commission has ideas or suggestions, I mean, please, we'll throw our email in the chat here. Please send us something that we can look into, because we're always looking for new opportunities or areas to explore. Put your contact information in the chat.
Any other questions from any other commissioners?
Dan, just so you're aware, your camera is on.
Your camera's on?
No, Dan, Miss Commissioner
Oh,
Dukes.
I see. Yeah, well, too many Dans.
Well, I actually have a couple of
Jean, I'm
questions.
sorry.
Go
Oh, sorry, real quick. Dan did put his hand up, and then, but it's up to you, the chair, just to call on him to speak.
Yeah, go ahead,
But-
Dan. Oh, go ahead.
Hi there, this is Commissioner Duke. I was just kind of taking some notes during your presentation. Just a couple of questions that I noted for myself. How many calls with the mental health group that you guys are working with? How many of those, who decides if it's a mental health crisis or a crime happening?
Yeah, yes, Commissioner Duke. So the way, if it's non-emergent, so say if the person calls in and just says, I'm having suicidal thoughts, and then so dispatch goes through a protocol and they'll ask them, well, do you have a weapon handy, or those kinds of things? Have you thought about this before? Have you started doing anything? Is there anybody there with you? If it's not, if they don't have a plan and they don't have a weapon with them, those are the ones we send to the Solari, to the diversion line. And they have been able to disposition, roughly, they said, about 80% of those calls. If they can't disposition it, then they send Teros, and Teros is the local mental health response unit. And then if it's something they can't take care of over the phone, they'll dispatch Teros. Or if it starts going south really quick, they'll get back on the line with dispatch and say, you need to send police and fire now. They do have a plan. They have a gun. Here's what's going on. So it can always come back to dispatch. But our goal is to try and send the right tool for the right time for the right reason. So if it can be, if a counselor can get them to a better place than we could without sending 2 police cars, that's the way we would want to do it. And then the flip side's also true. If an officer gets out on a call and finds out the person isn't armed and they could benefit more from mental health services, that officer can call the Teros unit over, or the care unit, depending on the care units we use more for unsheltered folks or folks that need additional services. If it's truly mental health, then Teros has more expertise and is more geared towards helping with that. So the officers in the field can make that judgment, and usually they'll send the call that route if they think it's a better outcome for the client.
I also met a couple weeks ago with this new foundation that just is coming up here now. It's called New Life Wellness Flagstaff. And they have one of these foundations in Phoenix area, and it was very successful. So they're coming up here. I'm waiting for them to get back with me when they want to meet and train the officers on what they do. They basically, their behavioral and mental health, they provide behavioral and mental health services for Native Americans. And so that's all they're doing right now. And they want our officers to call if they come across someone. They'll take them off the streets because it's so cold now that it's coming winter. They've got they just redid a motel on Milton, and they'll be able to feed them, clothe them. They've got washer dryers, but they also have counselors that will help them to get some mental health services. So this looks like it's very promising. They're just starting. I don't even know if they've even opened up their motel yet. But
That's my organization.
I'm sorry.
That's my organization. I've never. So, yeah, so our hotel will be open November 1st.
Oh, good, okay.
Okay, right on. My other question I had is, who is on the, you mentioned boards that the police department is involved with. Who is the member that's on the Sunshine Rescue Board?
Otis Brockman, he's our PIO for another 2 weeks and then he's retiring.
Okay. And also just like, I'm curious because as a citizen, I've witnessed this mental health group in action at least confidently a half dozen times. And correct me if I'm wrong, are they always escorted by police officers?
The Terrace group? No, the only time the police are there is if they call the police there or if the police call them to a scene, and then usually the officers turn it over to them and get out of there because they've got other calls stacked up. So they are not dispatched with officers, and the care unit does not have officers on board either. That's a firefighter, EMT, and a behavioral health specialist.
Okay. And then also, what scope of training does addiction fall under with your guys' practice? Is that under mental health training or?
The addiction, so they get some of that in the academy, but it's pretty basic. And then the CIT, crisis intervention team that the guidance center teaches, they touch on some of that, but it's not really in depth. That's why we'd rather send Teros or the care unit because they have a lot more experience with that.
Okay. And then that kind of repeats back to my first question about how many calls go out to the mental health group versus officers. So with this group that you're mentioning, I'm kind of confused. So if I call 911 and I'm like saying I'm sad and depressed, who would show up at my house?
They would say, let me get you over to the crisis line. And then the crisis line would come on the line, talk to you through it. And then if the crisis line couldn't satisfy what you need, the crisis line would dispatch Teros to your house. And hopefully Teros could take care of you. Now, if you called the PD and said, I'm suicidal, I've got a gun to my head, and I'm going to end it, then we're probably coming police and fire department and not sending you to the crisis line.
And then so I'm kind of curious, do detention officers are they considered employees of Flagstaff Police Department, or are they city employees? And do they experience the same kind of training or very, very minimal training? Because I think the number one complaint I get from citizens to citizen is regarding our jailed brothers and sisters and community members and the treatment they receive from those officers, not specifically the people on the street.
So 27 years ago, I was a detention officer, and the detention center is run by the Coconino County Sheriff. So those are all county employees. But they also, detention officers go through a detention academy similar to the police academy. So they would get some basic training in those various areas. But they also have medical folks on staff, and they used to contract with the guidance center for mental health services. I'm not sure if they still do or if they've gone a different route. The new thing that's coming on, Commissioner Duke, that we're pretty excited about is this Pathways program. And that's run by a close friend of mine through the health department. And so when people get released from jail, they will have members there from the guidance center, the health department, Flag Shelter Services, Catholic Charities, hopefully both prosecutor's office, and engage these folks right when they get out. That way they're sober and they're willing to talk to people, and they can help them with transportation, housing. They'll have some food in there to help feed them and hopefully get them on a path to better living. So that Pathways program, there was an article in the paper about it maybe a couple of weeks ago, but we're really hoping that helps out a lot of people. The bummer is it can only help people that are put in custody, and we're really trying not to put people in custody and look at some of these alternate responses. But I'm hopeful at some point we'll be able to get people to come through the front door instead of have to go through the jail to access that program, but that's a work in progress.
I'm going to have to interrupt here because we're down to 17 minutes left of our meeting. We've got several more items on the agenda. What I would encourage everybody to do that has questions for Chief Musselman and his colleagues to, he has provided email addresses in the chat, and go ahead and send him. I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions myself. And what I am going to do is I'm going to email them and start a conversation that way. Because unfortunately we meet once a month and we have an hour and a half to, cover an awful lot of material. And this was a huge one. And I really want to thank the folks for coming from Flagstaff PD. And I would really hope that we can establish a working relationship with the police department, and also, maybe have a place on the community liaison committee. I've been aware of that committee for a long time and have always thought I should throw my name in the hat, and I'm happy to do that, or any of the other people that are on this commission. I will be sending you Chief, I'm sending you an email with 7 or 8 questions, but we really do have to also cover some of these other items on our agenda. And I just can't thank you enough for making the time. And I think that these are all ongoing conversations, and it is really my hope that this is, the beginning of a relationship. So any final thoughts?
No, just thank you all for the opportunity to come and present before you. And please, if you have suggestions, I mean, we'd love to hear it. We're a learning organization and we want to do better, and we want to be more representative of the community as best we can. So thank you all. And thanks for your service on the commission.
I like that. I like that terminology, a learning organization. So we are too. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Have a great day. We'll sign off.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry to had to cut that short, but we still have several items on our agenda. And like I say, I think that if we can just go ahead and send the chief questions. I have actually several of them, and I would like to continue this conversation because I think that we can be of assistance. I mean, if we can work in partnership. And I just loved it that there was a shout out to our Commissioner Gebler's organization.
That was surprising.
I was just like, if you hadn't popped up and said something, Commissioner Gebler, I was going to identify you. Anyway, so that's very encouraging. That's very encouraging that they have you on their radar.
Yeah, I plan on doing presentations to their actual patrol officers. So another one of my coworkers and I are splitting up that. Like he said, the presentations are going to be at really random times throughout the day and week. But we want to reach as many of those officers as we can. So we're going to be doing those outreaches probably starting next week.
Terrific. That's terrific. Okay, so moving on to number 9 and general commission updates. First of all, we really want to thank Dan Duke for his participation in this commission over a course of years and stepping up to the plate as commissioner, as chair, and also showing up today and bringing questions and participation and a quorum as an outgoing commissioner. So we appreciate it very much. And Christine, I don't think I was aware that you were leaving the commission. I'm sorry to see that, but I understand that you are working 4 jobs right now when you think of, the student, the 2 jobs, and being a mom, which is the most important. So really want to thank you for your commission service, and look forward to working with you around in the community. So thank you very much. Anybody have anything that they want to add? Okay. And I noticed in the chat that our new staff liaison, Alan Key, had to leave. But it looks like, is Lisa still here?
I am.
Okay, well, welcome. And we would love for you to introduce yourself. And we may have already met you, those of us that showed up for the hospitality hour, but go ahead.
I'm not sure if I was there for that, but
Okay, oh, you weren't, all righty, it was somebody else, it was somebody, Jessica could tell us, but go ahead.
um, well, my name is Lisa Cada, and I am the HR analyst for compliance, policy, and procedures and employee relations. I do a lot with the city, but one of my main goals, of course, is like Jessica, we sit on several different committees for the city. And in addition to sitting in on this committee when Jessica leaves, I also sit on the committee for inclusive and adaptive living. So that's probably where you've seen me before, because I think I
Yeah.
came in and did a presentation on that. That's basically all there is to know, I guess. Looking forward to being a part of this committee. This was a great conversation today. I'm glad to have been able to sit in and listen to the presentation with the police department, because one of the things that I do here at the city is I oversee our online training through our NeoGov Learn system. So it was quite interesting to sit in and just kind of listen to where their challenges were and their interests lie in terms of training and development and what their goals are for the future. So this was a great meeting for me to sit in on. Alan had to step away, but he will also be the staff liaison for this committee moving forward.
Okay, well, that is exactly where I've seen you before, and I also remember the training, the .gov training that you gave an overview on before. So it's wonderful. Welcome aboard, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Lisa. Do you oversee also like all the agency hiring and stuff, or I mean, I'm not sure how that works since you work for the city.
No, I don't. But you're talking about like for the police department or in general?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't do any of the recruiting. Our recruiting staff does a lot of that, but I'm more on the back end, keeping track of the data. So some of that data that the police pulled up to show you guys, that's information that we would have also in-house, just kind of looking and seeing where the challenges are, where they may need to do some more recruitment and, get some interesting ways to get that diversity out there. So I am aware of some of their challenges, but no, I don't do any of the recruitment.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure how all that worked. Okay, and so welcome, and Jessica, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Chair Toner. And yeah, thank you, Lisa, for that introduction. So Lisa and Alan will be your point of contact since I'm transitioning into the fire department. And just to your hiring question, we do have a recruitment team dedicated in HR. Jennifer Caputo oversees that team. However, I will say the police department is the most proactive department that the city has when it comes to recruitment. They do a lot. They're very proactive. They have that in-house consult and things of that nature. But yeah, so if you ever wanted to reach out to our team, there's definitely a recruitment team that we have for city staff as well.
Good to know. And I am heartbroken that you're leaving. I know that, good people are replacing you, but Jessica, it has been an absolute pleasure to work with you. You have really contributed to bringing a lot of structure to this commission, and you have been Johnny on the spot no matter what was going on. And You've carried us through COVID, and it's just been such a pleasure to work with you. And boy, is the fire department getting a wonderful person, you know. And I just can't thank you enough for your incredible contribution.
Oh, thank you so much, Jean. That means a lot. I've learned a lot from this group of individuals, and quite frankly, has been inspiring the work that this commission does and how passionate they are about the community and where our community's at. And I've learned a lot. So thank you for teaching me and broadening my horizons. I appreciate it.
Well, and kind of like I said to Christine, we'll see you around the block.
Yeah.
We're all staying here in town. So.
Yep. Yep. Maybe we'll run in and have another informal social hour or something.
in any informal social hour, you will be invited to.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, so recommendations for council, that's section B. Number 1, the anti-camping ordinance. I believe that was being headed up with by Marcella and Claire, and Claire has moved, and Marcella is on family leave. So do we have any updates?
So we do. I did dig a little deeper at the request of the commission from last meeting to see where this item was. After following up with the city clerk's office, there was council discussion on the July 9th agenda. This would have been in 2021, actually. I need to add the date out of the year. It was brought up again on October 19th. I'm sorry, this one should be 2021 also. So I'll update that for the minutes. And essentially was not supported by council as a fair item to move forward. And so, you know, I do know the commission actually wasn't able to get a recommendation, unfortunately, before the council, before this decision was made. However, given the discussions, I can certainly send out the recording. Just, you know, not sure the commission wants to continue pursuing something the council has repeatedly discussed and voted against to proceed. However, if anyone on the commission listens or there's another recommendation in the future, that obviously can certainly be brought forward. I just, you know, with timing, we had given the time on this topic, I think just our time has passed since we didn't get a recommendation before council in time.
Okay, does anybody have a motion or any comments on this item? Maybe what we'll do is, I don't know that we can unilaterally decide to remove an action item, so, or recommendation item. So maybe we'll bring it up on the agenda next week or next month with our new commissioners and see what the feeling is. But I feel kind of like Jessica does, that so if it's been turned down twice for a fair.
Yeah, I will mention though, Commissioner Toner, this is absolutely the commission's call. However, just a reminder, Commissioner Pino actually doesn't return until January, and I'm sorry, not Tucci, Hardy has left the commission. So,
Right.
And so you do have a quorum, and you're not making a unilateral decision by having this, you know, as an item. It's certainly on the agenda today. You can discuss it, you can vote on it. You do have a quorum, and it could be documented in the minutes. Although if you feel or the commissioners would like additional time to think about this item and bring it up, we can certainly move it to the November meeting.
Would the commission, how do commissioners feel about a motion to remove it versus keeping it on the agenda as an ongoing rollover?
This is Commissioner Duke. I say keep it until the members involved with it are present to have a say in the decision.
Okay.
That was my thought as well, because especially, you know, Commissioner Pino's not here. I would
Right.
hate to remove something that she really does feel strongly about simply because she had family obligations, you know.
Absolutely. Okay, so that sounds like, and I agree with you also. Any any divergent views, Christine?
No, I was just gonna say it's probably a good idea to leave it on there since you'll have new commission members probably at your next meeting. And they might have something else to
Okay.
add to it.
Okay, well, we will keep it on the agenda and, you know, note that to Jessica. Okay, so number 10, agenda items for future meetings, proclamations. Black History Month is the next proclamation that we will be working on, and we can address that. It will need to be done no later than December. In November, we'll talk about it being done in December, and then in January, we can take a final vote on it. What we did last year was very effective to collaborate and be in partnership with the county. And so I suspect we will do that again. And also, I was contacted, former Chair Wegwart and I had presented to the Indigenous Commission a couple of months ago, and also said that to them that with the inception of the Indigenous Commission, that the proclamation would probably be more appropriately housed in their commission. And I got a email from a liaison, Rose Toey, and they will be taking over that one. And I'm happy about that. And they will be, incorporating as, kind of a jumping off place, the one that we've been providing for the last couple of years. So that is good news. Future priorities. Conversation with DBA to any future priorities that people want to include. The conversation with DBA to include literature. Jessica, can you remind me about that one?
Yes. For the future priorities, the conversation with the Downtown Business Alliance and the civil rights, is that the one you're asking about?
Yeah.
Okay. These two items came up when we had our annual retreat last. Might be good to consider an annual retreat with the new members. It's when the commission had talked about their strategic plan and priorities. And so this was an item that was discussed as a potential future priority.
Okay. Well, I guess we can just roll those over to the future meetings. I can give a quick update. There is no update on renaming the peaks. I know that one is still sitting with the kids over at Flag High, so we will continue to follow their lead and leave that on our agenda. Equitable restroom recommendation. The staff future agenda items is still in the queue. It's on the fair, future agenda items for city council. So that is in a holding pattern in regard to us right now. Municipal equity index. I think what we're going to do with that in cooperation with city staff is just wait until the next report comes out. And also, just kind of take a little bit of a lead from our excellent city staff there. So, we are 1 minute past our adjournment time. Any final comments before we adjourn?
I don't want to hold everyone, but I just wanted to say I really enjoyed being on the commission, and I hope I can come back when my life's calmed down a little bit.
You would be so welcome back, Christine.
I'll have a degree in public health then. Maybe I can offer more things.
Oh, you've already offered a lot, and we would absolutely welcome even more. It's just I've appreciated working with you, and I want to thank again Christine, and I want to thank again Dan Duke for all of his contributions, and Just thank you so much. And of course, Jessica, thank you so much.
This is Dan again. Thank you so much, Jessica. We've learned a lot from you as well. And as well, it's been an honor being able to serve my community on this commission and be able to be a team with you all for this community. I'm looking forward to seeing you all in our town, and I'm researching other boards and commissions and organizations that I could serve on and be an asset on to continue my community service with.
Thank you so much, Dan. And just like with the other folks, see you around the block. You know? We're all still going to be here. And that's, I love this community so much because of all the wonderful energy. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 3:03 p.m., October 25th, 2022. And again, many thanks for everybody, and feel free to send any emails to Chief Musselman. Very best, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.